What if our factories, the very symbols of industrial pollution, could actually become heroes in the fight against climate change? I know, it sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but it's not. It's the cutting edge of a field called process engineering. And today, we're going to explore how it's literally rewriting the future of our planet.
So let's just start with this kind of a wild idea. What if the factories we've always seen as the problem could actually start to heal the planet instead of harming it? It might sound like a dream, but it's the very real challenge that a group of absolutely brilliant engineers are tackling right now.
But, to really get why this is such a revolutionary idea, we first need to talk about the problem we've been facing for centuries. Let's call it our industrial dilemma.
Look, the problem is pretty simple. The very processes that create all the stuff we love, from our phones to our cars, have historically taken a really heavy toll on our planet. And to fix this, we need more than just a new rule or a new material. We need a fundamental, ground-up shift in how we even think about manufacturing. And that big shift, well, it's being driven by a field you might not have even heard of, but it's one that's quietly working behind the scenes to engineer a greener future for every single one of us. So what is process engineering anyway? Well, at its heart, it's the science of making huge industrial processes work way, way better. It's about looking at an entire factory as one big system, understanding every little chemical reaction, every bit of energy moving around, and then redesigning the whole thing to be more efficient, less wasteful, and ultimately sustainable. To really see this in action, let's look at a leader in this field, the Institute of Process Engineering at the Chinese Academy of Sciences, or IPECAS for short. Their journey? It's pretty amazing. They started way back in 1958, totally focused on steel. But over the decades, they just kept expanding their focus to energy, materials, and then in 2019, they launched an entire academy dedicated to one huge goal: achieving industrial carbon neutrality. That's a big deal. So, how does all this theory actually work in practice? Well, let's dive into our first case study, and it's all about the batteries that power pretty much everything in our world. Okay, so this slide shows a major headache for lithium batteries. See those spiky things on the left? They're called dendrites. And you can think of them like tiny, sharp crystals that grow inside the battery while it's charging. They can cause short circuits, they wreck the battery's life, and they can even be a safety risk. But researchers at IPKS found this really elegant solution. By applying a simple magnetic field, they can guide the lithium ions to lay down nice and evenly, which stops these nasty spikes from ever forming. And the results are, well, they're dramatic. The red line here shows a standard battery basically giving up after about 1,200 hours. But the blue line, that's the one with the magnetic field, it's still going strong past 2,500 hours. That is more than double the lifespan. This is a huge leap toward creating safer, more reliable batteries for everything: our smartphones, our electric vehicles, you name it. But process engineering isn't just about making the tech we already have better. It's also being used to tackle one of the biggest environmental challenges we have, and that is all the CO2 in our atmosphere. And to do this, scientists are using this incredible tool called ionic liquids. The easiest way to think of them is as designer solvents. So unlike water or oil, their molecular structure can be custom-built for a very specific job. In this case, they're designed to create these tiny, specialized environments. Scientists call them ionic microhabitats that are just perfectly shaped to grab onto and hold CO2 molecules. So how does it work? Okay, first, the ionic liquid acts like a molecular sponge, right? It's designed to specifically soak up CO2 from industrial smokestacks. Then, inside that special microhabitat, the CO2 molecule gets activated. It's held in just the right way that it's ready for a chemical reaction. And this step is crucial. It makes it way easier to convert that CO2 into useful products, like carbonates, which get used in everything from plastics to medicine. The end result? A harmful greenhouse gas gets turned into a valuable raw material. And this isn't just some cool idea in a lab. No way. This is a full-scale industrial plant that's already using this tech to convert 100,000 tons of CO2 every single year into valuable carbonates. This is process engineering in the real world, turning pollution into profit and proving that industry can actually be a key part of the climate solution. So these two breakthroughs in batteries and CO2 conversion, they're just the beginning. The overall impact of this kind of focused research is, well, it's staggering, and the numbers, they really do speak for themselves. In just the last 10 years, IPCASCAR has published nearly 10,000 scientific papers. That's just a massive contribution to our collective knowledge base. And it's not just academic research. They've also been granted over 3,000 patents. That's turning all those scientific discoveries into real-world, usable technologies.
And finally, here's where the rubber really meets the road. All that knowledge is being put to work. More than 1,000 companies have adopted these innovations, scaling them up to create a real, tangible impact on a global scale.
And it all comes back to this core mission. This isn't just science for the sake of science. It's about a deep, deep commitment to using engineering to improve not only our lives, but the actual health of our planet.
So, we've seen how process engineering is helping to clean up the legacy of our industrial past. But the real question is, what's next? As these technologies keep getting better and better, what kind of cleaner, smarter, and more sustainable world are they going to help us build? Thanks for diving into this with us.